All right, folks, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Vallone. I direct Grassroots North Carolina, the state's most effective gun rights organization. I would like to thank you for joining us here today and for helping GRNC's Political Action Committee, the GRNC Political Victory Fund, raise money to elect candidates who will support the Second Amendment in the critical 2022 elections. I would also like to thank everybody for sticking with us, because as you probably know, we got trumped, literally. When Donald Trump announced his rally on the same day to endorse Congressman Ted Budd out in Selma, and I know some of you, I know the candidates will be going there, and I know some of you may be going there as well. So we had to make adjustments to our schedule to accommodate that rally. I imagine it probably depressed our attendance somewhat, but I thank you for sticking with us. I'm happy to say that our keynote speaker, Congressman Ted Budd, who's running for the Republican nomination to replace Richard Burr in the U.S. Senate, and who has received Donald Trump's endorsement and will be honored at that rally in Selma, stuck with us even when it would have been easier for him not to. Frankly, he's going to great lengths to be with us today, and we very, very much appreciate it. In recent days, in fact, and I left it down on our table below, but you can see it down there. In recent days, we've been compiling votes for both the state legislature and for Congress. There is a spreadsheet of congressional votes with a 100 added for each vote favoring the Second Amendment and a 0 entered for each vote against your rights. It also includes a 100 for each piece of pro-gun legislation which the legislator sponsored or co-sponsored. Now, all of North Carolina's Republican congressional delegation voted right most of the time. And of course, the Democrats voted against us all of the time. But only one of the incumbent Republicans got a straight 100 all across the board. And that's the gentleman I am about to introduce. As our keynote speaker, he would normally come on last, but he has a rather important engagement he has to get to, and I don't think we want him to keep the Donald waiting. So, Ted Budd is the candidate Donald Trump has endorsed for the U.S. Senate. Ted is a small businessman raised in Davie County, where he and his wife, Amy Kate, live today with their 3 children and Boone, their dog. Ted was elected to Congress along with Donald Trump in 2016 and has established a strong conservative record supporting efforts to secure our borders and stand up for America First policies that protect American jobs and increase opportunities for working men and women across North Carolina. Ted has spent his career as a small businessman and presently owns and operates a gun store and training center. I would also note that I have seen the congressman's commercials with him touring the southern border and the border wall while carrying what appears to be, is it a Glock? In appendix carry? Now, that suggests to me that the congressman is also a braver man than I. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Congressman Ted Budd.
Well, thank you all for being here. Paul, thank you for that great introduction. Look, I don't just come here as a candidate. I come here as a lifetime member, long before politics, with Grassroots North Carolina. So, honored to be here. And that happened long before I ever thought running for office. This is great to be here. Larry, thank you so much for hosting. It's great to be on the campaign trail because you get to be among your heroes. And Larry came up to me. I expected a warm welcome, maybe some encouragement for me running on the trail here, U.S. Senate. And he looked at me, another gun store owner. We live too far away to be competitors. But he looked at me and he said, you hired my general manager. I was like, well, Larry, that's been 9 years. But he lives closer to me than you. So, look, Larry, you are one of my heroes. You're one of the best in the business, not just in this area or in this state, but in this country. Thank you for what you do, what your dad did to get the business going, and what you've done to make it even better. You're setting a great examples for FFLs around the country, and the sky's the limit. Thank you for all that you do, and for this beautiful place that you and your family have built for so many to enjoy, not just nature, but also our Second Amendment. So thank you. Everybody give Larry a hand. Look, I imagine you come here for lots of reasons. One is to be at a beautiful place like this. Second is to shoot other people's guns and use other people's ammo today. That's one of the reasons that I'm here. But I imagine that a lot of you all are tremendously concerned about the direction of our country. Anybody here concerned about the direction of our country? I think about every hand went up. Look, this is a critical moment for our country. Don't you hear every 2 years, every election cycle, every year, if you think about Virginia being in the off years, that this is the most critical election of our lifetime? But the interesting thing is, folks, that it is always true, because the consequences, they keep getting ratcheted up every time. So when you hear that, it's true this time as well. We see things like the advance of socialism. And even with this crazy last 2 years, 2 weeks to stop the spread, come on, guys. Even with this crazy last 2 years, we can come out here with gratitude, because what happened is the Band-Aid got ripped off. We were able to see the wound. We were able to see the problems. We were able to see the advances of what the left was trying to do to destroy our country. So it's not that this has just happened in the last 2 years. Donald Trump pulled the Band-Aid off. Our kids were sent home, a lot of us who have school-age children, and we were able to say, they're doing what? They're teaching what to our children? And now we see it. And now we're ready to fight back. And we're going to do it not just at the ballot box in November, but you got to pick your fighter that goes to the ballot box in November. And that is in 38 days on May 17th. And early voting starts this month, April 28th. So look, we're front lines, tremendously concerned about the direction of our country. Look, I just want to leave you with a couple of things. One, what sets us apart? You know, when you go and you look at the U.S. Senate, you're going to see a long ballot, and you got to go all the way down on the ballot. Everybody's important. We've got some great judges here. We've got Congressman Dan Bishop, who's here, who is a true warrior in spirit, and great to be a colleague with him. But I'll tell you what, let me just give you a couple of distinctives. What makes it, unique about why you would choose me? Because you got an ex-governor running around who's saying that he's the most electable, but hasn't he already lost the state twice, folks? And then when the polling comes out in the last couple of weeks, isn't he the one that's least likely to be elected against Sherry Beasley? The one that the Democrats have consolidated against? Yeah, that's him. Look, folks, you got a lot of choices. And what a great country where you have all these choices. I'll leave you with a couple of things. One, and this is not important to everybody, but it's important to a lot of us, and it's very important to me and to Amy Kate, my wife, is I want to let you know that I'm a person of faith. My relationship with Christ is the single biggest factor in defining who I am and in my life. 31 years ago, I had the great privilege of being on a mission trip. I was a student at Appalachian State University. And that summer, after my freshman year, I went to a country that we can find in the history books now, the USSR, the Soviet Republic, and went there. And two things happened in August of 1991. One is the Iron Curtain collapsed the very week in the 10 days that I was there. The second thing that happened was that I met my wife, Amy Kate. Now that's pretty cool. And people go, that's amazing. You met your wife in Russia? How is her English? I go, it is fantastic. She is from West Virginia. And I know we've got some West Virginians here. Absolutely. Well, anyway, look. It was an absolute honor to be with you all. Let me just share a couple more things. You know, the other thing I think we need, and Larry gets this, a lot of you all get this, is you need somebody that understands small business. And Paul, you referenced this when you introduced me. You need somebody that gets what our small businesses fight for and through every single week. Now, 12 years ago, when I was having conversations with Larry about this industry that he's in, there was a bankrupt, closed indoor gun range north of Winston-Salem, and a local police department came to me. They were sending their officers way too far away to train at an outdoor range, and they said, would you buy this bankrupt, closed indoor gun range and let our officers train there? And I said, absolutely. But then I scratched my head, and I said, who goes bankrupt during Obama in a gun range? I don't know. You'll think about that for a minute, okay? We figured it out, though. And the training captain, he came to me before I opened the door 12 years ago, and he said, never underestimate the need of the public to have a safe place to shoot. Y'all get that? You get that. You've opened an amazing place right here, Larry. So we opened it. And a lot of customers later, I'm really glad that I took his advice. So I think we need somebody that not only defends the Second Amendment, whether it's here in our state or in small business, but also when they go either to Raleigh or whether they go to Washington, D.C. And that's what I've had the privilege to do for the past 5.5 years in Congress. One of the last things I think we need is somebody also that knows how to win. Now we have somebody else saying they're the most electable, but the numbers came out last week and proved that's just not true. But I want to let you know that I came through a big primary, 17-way primary. Donald Trump had a 17-way primary. I was a business guy that had never run for office before. He was a business guy that had never run for office before. But the real fight came in 2018, and that is when Nancy Pelosi, she put me on her list in 2018. Not a good year for Republicans, folks, but she put me on her list of 33 members of Congress that were Republicans, that were conservatives, that she wanted to eliminate, because, Boyd, let me tell you, she wanted to take her gavel back. And so she handpicked a liberal candidate to run against me. She put millions of dollars behind that candidate. And by God's grace and a lot of hard work, we beat her by 6 points. And folks, let me tell you, we're going to do that again, except this time, we're going to do it to Chuck Schumer. So in an elevator in Washington, D.C., I'm going down to the ground floor. Elevator stops halfway. Doors come open. In walks Chuck Schumer. Not a joke here. True story. He walks in. He looks at me over those glasses. He knows I'm from North Carolina. And he goes, "Tell me about your state." And I'm not going to give him any free consulting, folks. But I look at him and I go, "Well, Senator, they're leaving high-tax states like yours and coming to great states like mine." About that time, the door opened and the conversation was over. But I tell you what, we're going to do it again to Chuck Schumer. And I can't do it, though. I can't do it without your help. I can't do it without your prayers. And I can't do it without your support. So I'd like to humbly ask for that today. And I'm grateful for you all having me with you. Thank you so much.